My name is Evelyn, and I am 28 years old living in the beautiful but very rainy city of Seattle, Washington. I have lived here for about 6 years now, and I absolutely love the atmosphere of the Pacific Northwest. I work as a senior graphic designer for a local marketing firm, which means I spend a lot of time at my desk with my nose buried in a computer screen. Because I work from home 3 days a week, my apartment is my sanctuary. It is a 3-bedroom unit that I share with my longtime friend Mark. Mark and I have known each other since college, and we have a great rhythm. He is a software engineer and is generally a very laid-back guy. The third member of our household and the true owner of the apartment is my cat Barnaby. Barnaby is a 7-year-old orange tabby that I rescued from a shelter when he was just a tiny kitten. He is the light of my life. He has this funny habit of chirping at the birds outside the window, and he always sleeps right next to my pillow every single night. For the longest time, our living situation was perfect. Mark and I respected each other's space, and Barnaby was the king of the castle. However, things started to change about 6 months ago when Mark started dating a woman named Tiffany. At first, I was happy for him because Mark had been single for a long time, and he seemed really excited about her. But the moment I met Tiffany, I got a very strange vibe. She was the kind of person who walked into a room and immediately tried to take over the energy. She was very polished with perfect hair and expensive clothes, but her eyes were cold. On the very first night she came over for dinner, she looked at Barnaby with an expression of pure disgust. She did not even try to hide it. She told Mark right in front of me that she was not a cat person and that she thought indoor pets were dirty and unhygienic. I tried to laugh it off and told her that Barnaby was cleaner than most people I knew, but she did not find it funny. Over the next few weeks, Tiffany started spending more and more time at our apartment. It went from 1 night a week to 4 or 5 nights a week. She started leaving her things everywhere and acting like she lived there. But the worst part was how she treated Barnaby. Whenever Mark was in the room, she would ignore the cat, but as soon as Mark went to the kitchen or the bathroom, she would hiss at Barnaby or try to nudge him off the furniture with her foot. I saw her do it once, and I immediately confronted her. I told her that this was Barnaby's home, and she was a guest, and she needed to treat him with respect. Tiffany just gave me a fake smile and said she was sorry and that she must have just tripped. I knew she was lying, but I did not want to cause a huge scene and make things awkward for Mark. I thought maybe she would just get used to him over time, but things only got worse. Tiffany started complaining to Mark that her allergies were acting up because of the cat hair. Mark asked me if I could keep Barnaby in my bedroom more often. I was frustrated because Barnaby has had free run of the house for years, but I agreed to keep him in my room when Tiffany was over just to keep the peace. But Tiffany was not satisfied with that. She wanted Barnaby gone completely. One Saturday morning, I was in my room working on a project when I heard the front door open and close. I knew Mark had gone out to get coffee and breakfast sandwiches. A few minutes later, I heard a weird scraping sound coming from the living room. I walked out and saw Tiffany standing by the sliding glass door that leads to our balcony. We live on the 5th floor of the building. The door was wide open, and Barnaby was sitting on the edge of the railing looking down at the street below. My heart nearly stopped. Barnaby is an indoor cat, and he has no sense of heights or danger. I rushed over and grabbed him before he could slip. I turned to Tiffany and asked her what on earth she was doing. She looked at me with a completely blank face and said she just wanted some fresh air because the apartment smelled like a litter box. I told her that she knew Barnaby was not allowed on the balcony because it was dangerous. She just shrugged and walked away to look at her phone. I was shaking with anger. I told Mark about it when he got home, but Tiffany had already gotten to him. She told him that I was overreacting and that she did not realize the cat was even near the door. Mark looked torn, but he ended up taking her side, saying that she probably just forgot. That was the first major red flag that I chose to ignore because I valued my friendship with Mark. But then the incidents started happening more frequently. One day, I found Barnaby's water bowl completely empty and bone dry, even though I had filled it that morning. Another day, I found a small pile of chocolate pieces on the floor right where Barnaby likes to eat his treats. Chocolate is extremely toxic to cats, and there was no way that chocolate just fell there by accident. It was a high-quality dark chocolate that I knew Tiffany liked to eat. I confronted her again, and this time she got defensive and mean. She told me that I was a crazy cat lady and that I was imagining things. She said I was jealous of her relationship with Mark and that I was trying to sabotage them. She actually started crying and ran into Mark's room. Mark came out a few minutes later and looked at me like I was the villain. He told me that I needed to stop attacking Tiffany and that she was a good person. I realized then that Mark was completely under her spell. He could not see the manipulation right in front of his face. I decided that I needed proof if I was going to save my cat and my sanity. I bought a few small hidden cameras that looked like regular USB chargers, and I placed them around the common areas of the apartment. I did not tell Mark about them because I knew he would tell Tiffany. For a few days, nothing happened. Tiffany was on her best behavior because she knew I was watching her. But then came the Tuesday from hell. I had to go into the office for a big meeting, which meant I would be gone for at least 8 hours. I made sure Barnaby was safe in my room with food and water and his litter box. I locked my bedroom door, which is something I never usually do. When I came home that evening, the apartment was quiet. Mark was still at work, and Tiffany's car was not in the driveway. I went to my room to check on Barnaby, but when I reached for the handle, I realized the door was unlocked. My heart sank. I pushed the door open, and Barnaby was nowhere to be found. I searched under the bed and in the closet and behind the curtains, but he was gone. I started screaming his name and running through the apartment. I found him in the laundry room inside a plastic storage bin with a heavy lid on top of it. He was panting, and his eyes were wide with fear. He had been trapped in there for hours in the dark with very little air. I pulled him out and held him close to me while I sobbed. I checked the hidden camera footage immediately on my laptop. What I saw made my blood run cold. The footage showed Tiffany using a credit card to jiggle the lock on my bedroom door until it opened. She then grabbed Barnaby by the scruff of his neck and carried him into the laundry room. She threw him into the bin and slammed the lid shut. Then she went to the kitchen and made herself a glass of wine and sat on the couch laughing while she watched television. She looked completely relaxed and happy while she was literally trying to suffocate my cat. I was beyond furious. I was in a state of cold, calculated rage. I realized that Tiffany was not just a mean person, she was a dangerous sociopath. I knew that if I just showed Mark the footage, he might break up with her, but she would just move on to the next victim. She needed to be stopped. I needed to dismantle her life piece by piece so that she would never be able to hurt anyone or any animal ever again. I started by doing some deep research on her. I knew she worked as an account executive for a big insurance company, but I wanted to know more. I spent the next several nights staying up late and digging into her past. It turns out that Tiffany was not even her real name. Her real name was Tabitha, and she had a history of legal trouble in another state. She had been fired from 3 different jobs in the last 5 years for various reasons, including harassment and theft. I also discovered that she was currently lying about her educational background. Her resume claimed she had an advanced degree from a prestigious university, but the school records showed she had dropped out after 1 semester. But the biggest find was her current financial situation. Tiffany lived a very flashy lifestyle, but she was drowning in debt. She had multiple credit cards maxed out, and she was being sued by 2 different debt collection agencies. I also found out that she was cheating on Mark. She was seeing a wealthy older man on the side who was paying for her expensive clothes and her car payments. She was essentially using Mark for a place to stay while she scouted for her next big catch. I had all the information I needed, but I had to be smart about how I used it. I could not just dump it all at once, or it might look like I was just being spiteful. I needed to weave a web that she would walk right into. Act 2 began with me playing the long game. I acted like everything was fine. I told Mark and Tiffany that I was sorry for being so tense lately and that I wanted us all to get along. Tiffany looked smug like she had won. I even invited her out for drinks one evening, just the 2 of us. While we were out, I pretended to be her best friend. I told her how much Mark loved her and how I was so happy he found someone like her. She started drinking more and more, and she started bragging about her life. She told me about the older man she was seeing, although she did not use his name. She called him her sugar daddy and laughed about how easy it was to manipulate men. I had my phone recording the entire conversation in my purse. I also asked her about her job, and she told me all about how she was about to get a huge promotion. She said she was the top performer in her office and that everyone loved her. I knew this was a lie because I had already contacted a former coworker of hers who told me that Tiffany was actually on a performance improvement plan and was close to being fired for being unprofessional. The next step of my plan involved her career. I knew that her company had a very strict policy regarding ethics and personal conduct. I created a fake email account and sent an anonymous tip to her human resources department. I included copies of her actual college transcripts compared to the fake ones she had submitted with her application. I also included some of the recordings of her talking about how she hated her job and how she used the company credit card for personal expenses. I knew she had been doing that because I saw her use a company card to pay for our drinks that night. A few days later, Tiffany came home from work absolutely fuming. She told Mark that her boss was an idiot and that they were unfairly targeting her. She didn't realize that the walls were closing in. Meanwhile, I started sending anonymous messages to the older man she was seeing. I had found his identity through some clever social media sleuthing. I sent him photos of Tiffany and Mark together looking like a happy couple. I told him that Tiffany was using him for money and that she was laughing about him behind his back. I included the audio recording of her calling him her sugar daddy. The man was a high-profile lawyer in the city, and he did not take kindly to being played. Within 24 hours, he had cut her off completely. He took back the car he had leased for her, and he canceled all her credit cards that were in his name. Tiffany was suddenly broke and without a vehicle. She had to start taking the bus to work, which she absolutely hated. She tried to get Mark to buy her a new car, but Mark was starting to have his own doubts. I had been subtly planting seeds of suspicion in his mind for weeks. I would mention things, she said, that did not quite add up, or I would point out when she was lying about where she had been. The tension in the apartment was becoming unbearable. Tiffany was becoming more and more desperate, and when she was desperate, she became even more cruel. One evening, I came home to find Barnaby's favorite climbing tower knocked over and broken into pieces. Tiffany was standing over it with a hammer in her hand. She told me it was an accident and that she had tripped and knocked it over. I didn't say a word. I just walked to my room and closed the door. I knew the climax was coming. The low point for me was when I realized that Mark was still trying to save her. Even after all the weird things happening, he still wanted to believe she was the woman he fell in love with. He told me that she was just going through a hard time because she had lost her job, which happened the day after HR got my email. He wanted to let her move in officially and pay her rent until she got back on her feet. This was my nightmare. If she moved in, she would have 24-hour access to Barnaby, and I would never be able to protect him. I felt like I was losing everything. I felt like my home was no longer safe, and my best friend was slipping away. I spent a whole night crying and holding Barnaby, thinking that I might have to move out and leave Mark behind just to keep my cat alive. But then I remembered the footage. I had been saving the footage of her trapping Barnaby in the bin for the final blow. I had also been gathering more evidence of her financial crimes. It turns out she hadn't just used the company card for drinks. She had embezzled thousands of dollars over the last year. The police were already starting to look into it, thanks to the documents I had sent to the insurance company's legal team. I knew the police would be coming for her soon, but I wanted to make sure Mark saw the truth with his own eyes before that happened. I decided to throw a small dinner party for Mark's birthday. I invited a few of our close friends, and I even told Tiffany she could invite whoever she wanted. She was excited because she thought it was a chance to show off and prove that she was still successful. On the night of the party, the apartment was full of people. Tiffany was dressed in a very expensive-looking dress that I knew she couldn't afford. She was acting like she was the hostess and talking about all the new job offers she was getting. Mark looked happy for the first time in weeks. I waited until everyone was in the living room with their drinks. I told everyone that I had a special surprise for Mark's birthday. I had set up a projector and a screen to show a slideshow of photos of our friendship over the years. Everyone gathered around looking forward to the memories. The slideshow started with cute pictures of us in college and then moved on to pictures of us moving into the apartment. There were lots of photos of Barnaby as a kitten. Then the music changed from upbeat to something dark and ominous. The next slide was not a photo. It was the video of Tiffany breaking into my room. The room went dead silent. Everyone watched as Tiffany used the credit card to pick the lock. They watched as she grabbed Barnaby by the neck. They watched the look of pure hatred on her face. And then they watched her throw him into the laundry bin and laugh as she drank her wine. Mark's face went from confusion to horror to pure disgust. Tiffany tried to scream and tell me to turn it off, but I didn't stop it. The video transitioned into a series of screenshots. It showed her real name and her criminal record. It showed the emails from her sugar daddy. It showed the evidence of her embezzlement. The party guests were whispering and backing away from her like she was a monster. Mark turned to her and his voice was shaking with rage. He asked her how she could do that to a helpless animal. He asked her who she really was. Tiffany didn't have an answer. She tried to slap me, but I caught her wrist. I told her that it was over. At that exact moment, there was a knock at the door. I had timed it perfectly. I had called the police an hour earlier and told them exactly where they could find Tabitha. 2 officers entered the apartment and informed her that there was a warrant out for her arrest regarding the embezzlement charges. They handcuffed her in front of everyone. As they led her away, she was screaming and cursing at me, telling me that she was going to kill me and my cat when she got out. But everyone saw her for what she really was. Mark was devastated, but he was also incredibly grateful. He apologized to me over and over again for not believing me. He spent the rest of the night sitting on the floor with Barnaby, apologizing to the cat too. Act 3 was the resolution I had worked so hard for. After Tiffany was gone, the apartment felt light and airy again. It took a while for things to get back to normal, but Mark and I worked through it. He ended up going to therapy to deal with the emotional manipulation he had experienced. He also paid for all of Barnaby's vet checkups to make sure he didn't have any lasting trauma from being trapped in that bin. Barnaby is doing great now. He is back to his old self, chirping at birds and taking up way too much space on the bed. As for Tiffany, or Tabitha, she ended up taking a plea deal. She is currently serving time in prison, and she will have to pay back every cent she stole. Her reputation in Seattle is completely ruined. No one will hire her, and no one wants anything to do with her. She tried to call Mark from jail a few times, but he changed his number. I also made sure to send all the evidence to her family back in her hometown so they would know exactly why she wasn't coming home for the holidays. It might sound cruel, but she tried to take away the one thing I love most in this world. She tried to kill my cat, and she almost succeeded. My revenge was not just about getting even, it was about making sure she could never hurt another living soul again. The house is quiet now, and the rain is falling against the window. I am sitting on the couch with a warm cup of tea, and Barnaby is curled up in my lap, purring loudly. I feel a sense of peace that I haven't felt in a long time. But there is one little twist to the story that I haven't told anyone yet. A few weeks after the arrest, I was cleaning out the back of the pantry, and I found a small leather-bound journal that Tiffany had hidden. I started reading it and realized it was her diary. In it, she had written about her plans for Mark. She wasn't just planning to live off him. She was planning to frame him for her embezzlement crimes. She had already started opening accounts in his name and forging his signature on documents. If I hadn't stepped in when I did, Mark would have been the one in handcuffs. I showed the journal to Mark, and he turned pale. We took it to the police, and it helped clear his name from any potential fallout from her schemes. It turns out that by saving my cat, I had also saved my best friend's entire life. We have decided that we are going to move out of this apartment at the end of the year. Not because we don't like it, but because it has too many bad memories of her. We are looking for a house with a big fenced-in yard where Barnaby can have a screened-in porch to watch the birds safely. Mark is much more careful about who he dates now, and he always makes sure they like cats first. I am still working as a graphic designer, and I even started a side project creating illustrations for a children's book about a brave orange cat who outsmarts a villain. It is my way of turning a terrible experience into something positive. Life in Seattle is good. The rain doesn't seem so gloomy when you know that the people inside your home are safe and that justice has been served. I look at Barnaby, and he looks back at me with those big green eyes, and I know I would do it all over again if I had to. No one touches my cat and gets away with it. The world can be a dark place sometimes, but as long as you are willing to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves, you can find the light. Tiffany thought she was the smartest person in the room, but she underestimated a woman with a plan and a cat who deserves the world. We are moving forward, and we are never looking back. Every time I see a news report about white-collar crime, I think of her sitting in her cell and I smile. She wanted a flashy life, but now she has a very simple one, and it is exactly what she deserves. My name is Evelyn, and I protected my family, and that is the best feeling in the world. I have learned that you should always trust your instincts about people. If someone shows you who they are the first time, believe them. Tiffany showed me she was a monster the moment she looked at Barnaby, and I am just glad I was strong enough to stop her before it was too late. Now the apartment is filled with laughter again, and the smell of fresh coffee, and the sound of Barnaby's little paws running across the hardwood floors. We are whole again, and that is the greatest revenge of all. I sometimes wonder if she thinks about us in there. I wonder if she regrets the moment she decided to pick that lock, but honestly, it doesn't matter what she thinks. She is a footnote in our story now. We are the ones who get to live happily ever after. The rain continues to fall outside, and I feel completely at home. Barnaby stretches out and reaches a paw toward my hand. I pet his head and he closes his eyes in total contentment. We are safe. We are happy. And we are finally free from her shadow. The end of this chapter is the beginning of a much better one for all of us. I have learned so much about my own strength and about the importance of standing up for what is right. It wasn't just about the cat, even though he is my world. It was about standing up to a bully and a criminal who thought she was untouchable. No one is untouchable when they are fueled by hate, and no one is more powerful than someone fueled by love and loyalty. Mark and I are closer than ever, and our friendship has been forged in fire. We know we can count on each other no matter what happens. And Barnaby, well, he is just happy to have his climbing tower back and a constant supply of his favorite treats. We are doing just fine. The rainy streets of Seattle are beautiful tonight, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I have everything I need right here in this apartment. My work is going well, and my heart is full. I have realized that justice doesn't always come from the system alone. Sometimes you have to give it a little nudge. And I am very good at giving nudges. This experience has changed me in ways I didn't expect. I am more confident and more aware of the world around me. I don't let people walk over me anymore, and I certainly don't let them hurt the ones I love. I am a protector and a friend and a survivor. And as I watch the city lights flicker in the distance, I know that I have done the right thing. The story of Evelyn and Barnaby is one of victory, and I wouldn't change a single thing about how it ended. We are exactly where we are supposed to be. The rainy nights in Seattle are the best nights, especially when you are surrounded by love and peace. I look forward to the future and all the adventures that await us in our new home. But for now, I am just going to enjoy this moment of quiet and the steady purring of my best friend. Life is good and justice is sweet. I have learned that the most important thing you can have is a place where you feel safe and people who make you feel loved. I have that now, and I will never take it for granted again. The world is full of people like Tiffany, but it is also full of people who will stand up and do the right thing. I am proud to be one of those people. And I am proud of Barnaby for being the toughest cat I know. We made it through the storm together, and the sun is finally starting to peek through the clouds. It is a brand new day, and we are ready for whatever comes next. The lessons I have learned will stay with me forever, and I will always be watchful for those who would try to bring darkness into our lives. But I am not afraid because I know that I have the strength to handle anything. I am Evelyn, and this is my story of revenge and redemption. It is a story of a cat and a girl and a friendship that couldn't be broken. And most of all, it is a story about how the truth will always find a way to come out in the end. I am at peace, and that is the ultimate goal. The city is quiet, and the night is young, and I am exactly where I belong. The end is just the beginning of something wonderful. I can hear Mark in the kitchen making some popcorn, and the smell of it fills the air. He calls out to ask if I want some, and I smile. Yes, I say I would love some. Barnaby jumps off my lap and trots toward the kitchen, hoping for a stray piece of popcorn. I follow him, feeling lighter than I have in months. Everything is going to be okay. We are a family, and we are strong. And we are never going to let anyone like Tiffany into our lives ever again. The door is locked, but this time it is to keep the goodness in, not to keep the secrets out. We are happy and we are home. That is all that matters. As I walk into the kitchen, I see Mark laughing at Barnaby's antics, and I realize that we have truly moved on. The nightmare is over and the dream is just starting. I am thankful for every moment and every lesson. And I am especially thankful for my brave orange cat who started it all. We are the lucky ones, and we know it. The future is bright, and we are ready to embrace it with open arms. Seattle is a great place to live, but the best place to be is wherever you are loved and respected. And that is exactly where I am right now. The end of the story is the best part because it is where the healing begins, and we are healing every single day. I am happy and I am free. And that is the most important thing of all. I will always remember what happened, but I will not let it define me. I am more than just a victim of a crazy roommate's girlfriend. I am a winner. I am a hero in my own story, and I have the best cat in the world by my side to prove it. Life is beautiful, and I am grateful for every single second of it. The rain has stopped and the stars are coming out. It is going to be a beautiful night. I am ready for tomorrow and all the tomorrows after that. We are going to be just fine. Actually, we are going to be better than fine. We are going to be great. And that is the truth. the whole truth and nothing but the truth. I am Evelyn and I am home. And I am finally at rest. The world is a good place if you know how to look at it. And I am looking at it with clear eyes and a happy heart. The end is here, and it is a good one. A very good one indeed. I hope that anyone who hears my story knows that they have the power to change their lives too. You just have to be brave and you have to be smart. And you have to never ever give up on the ones you love. That is the secret to a happy life. And I am living proof of that. So thank you for listening to my story, and remember to always keep your cats safe and your friends close. You never know when you might need to save each other. Goodbye and good luck to everyone out there. May your lives be full of love, and may your enemies always get exactly what they deserve. Because in the end, that is how the world stays in balance. And I am very happy to have played my part in keeping that balance. I am at peace and I am happy. And that is the best ending anyone could ask for. The end. Actually, truly the end this time. I am going to go eat some popcorn now and play with my cat. Life is good, very, very good. Goodbye.